I took my boyfriend's cell phone by mistake and ended up seeing the message his ex just sent. I didn't take my pills that night. Just a few words. But let my whole person chilled to the bone. The night before last, I was struck by acute gastroenteritis. He was working overtime at the company, and I called him a dozen times, but never got through. I called him a dozen times and never got through. I endured the pain, and at 3:00 a.m., I took a taxi to the hospital by myself. It turned out that he turned off his cell phone and did not come back for a night. He went to look for his ex-girlfriend. Today is the night before Ethan and I get married. His ex Chloe insisted on following a group of old classmates to congratulate us. The moment I pushed open the door, I saw Chloe stand on her tiptoes and kiss Ethan on the lips. Ethan didn't push her away. Even reached out and held her waist when she was almost unsteady on her feet. It was a very gentle gesture. Very different from the coldness he had shown me these days. Around him his old classmates were cooing, as if they had been used to such scenes for a long time. Skillful and natural. The sound was harsh, like a hand around my throat, making me almost choke and gasp for air. "Sophia?" Watching me walk in, someone shouted. It was a very abrupt statement. Not only did it succeed in separating the two, but it also caused a group of people in the room to look towards me in unison. Chloe exclaimed in exaggerated shock. She hurriedly walked over to me, and her face even had a blush on it. Just now we were playing Truth or Dare and Ethan and I lost. "You don't misunderstand." I looked at her incredulously. Just now, I had something to leave, and on my way back, I suddenly received a WeChat friend request with Chloe as the note. When it went through, she immediately sent me an intimate picture of her and Ethan. Guess what I'm doing with him now? Seconds after withdrawing, and then as if nothing had happened, she sent, "Happy newlywed." Now, she did explain herself openly, as if she wasn't the one who sent me the provocative message. Instead, I was the one making a fuss and being unreasonable. As if she was afraid that I wouldn't believe her. Chloe suddenly grabbed my wrist and tried to say something, but I shook her off with force. She staggered back a few steps and, just by coincidence, fell into Ethan's arms, who was holding out his hand. It was raining outside, and I slipped on the bottom of my feet from the rain, hitting the table next to me. The phone fell to the floor and slid out several meters. It wasn't a soft thud, but it made the whole room go silent for a moment. Someone picked up my phone and silently placed it on the table. Ethan then looked like he finally reacted and rushed over to help me. Feeling a little ridiculous, I braced myself and stood up, avoiding his touch. Taking a deep breath, I stared at him and asked, "Ethan, what if I said that just now she texted me to provoke me, saying, 'Sophia, just now it was just a game'?" Ethan interrupted me. The tone of voice was as calm as ever, and the impatience revealed in his expression was undisguised. I froze. The burning sensation reached my brain, gradually diffusing to every nerve. It was only at this time that I felt the belated pain and embarrassment. Unable to stay any longer, I grabbed my phone and ran to the restroom. Turning on the faucet, I washed my face, and a cold, bone-chilling sensation flowed through my body. Suddenly my phone vibrated, showing that it was a message from Chloe, but I hadn't given her a note before. Frozen for a few seconds, I realized that I had just come out in a hurry and grabbed the wrong Ethan's phone. By the time I reacted, I had unconsciously opened Ethan and Chloe's dialogue box. Chloe sent me a sentence. "That night, I forgot to take my pills afterward." Just a few words, but it made my whole body chill to the bone. So, they slept while I was busy on my feet with the chores of getting ready for the wedding? The overhead light hitting the screen of my cell phone shook me a little and made me slowly remember things. The day before yesterday. After work. I could not eat. I went to the wedding hotel busy until late. The result of gastroenteritis suddenly broke out. Ethan said he was working overtime at the company. I called him a dozen times, but never got through. Forced to endure the pain of the heart. 3 o'clock in the morning. I took a taxi to the hospital alone. It turns out that he turned off his cell phone and lost contact. Did not return overnight. Is to look for her. The heart hurts like it was viciously torn apart. I do not know how I continue to read. Flipping to one of the chats. My fingers stuttered. A week ago, Chloe had sent him a picture of a ragdoll cat. Our son is getting cuter and cuter now hhh. He sent an aha back. Then, changed the wallpaper to the ragdoll cat they had before. Brain went blank. Not even noticing someone approaching me until the phone was snatched away with force. Ethan looked at me with a sullen face and his voice went a few shades colder. Purposely taking the wrong phone? I looked at this pair of familiar and unfamiliar eyes. The nerves that had been tight. Completely broken. What about you? Don't you want to explain? Just now you kissed. You said it was just a game. Then what about these chat records? And this wallpaper? It was originally Cotton's picture. Why did you change it to the picture she sent you? I tremblingly pointed at his cell phone. My voice almost hoarse. Obviously the facts are in front of us. Still want to hear him explain. But he didn't say anything. Extinguished the screen and looked at me expressionlessly. He had always been good at silence. When Ethan chased me for a long time and officially said yes to him, it was because of Cotton. My mom and dad divorced when I was very young. And it was my grandmother who brought me up. Grandma passed away a few years ago and left me Cotton, saying it would always be with me in her place. That night I went out to walk my dog. And in a moment of inattention, Cotton was lost. I turned over the entire park and finally sat down on the ground, hugging my knees and crying in despair. The last person to help me find Cotton was Ethan. At that time, he was holding the puppy and couldn't catch his breath. But he told me in a very light-hearted way. When I was running just now, I saw Cotton being held by a man who was walking very fast. I think he was a dog trader. I was so happy and scared that my tears kept falling down. Don't cry, Ethan is usually quite clean. But he is not picky. And sat down on the concrete next to me. He was silent for a while. And sighed very softly. When you cry, I don't know what to do. The moonlight shone on the side of his face. And he looked at me like this. His eyes gentle and sincere. Cotton will always be by your side. And so will I. After that day, we were together. After 3 years of talking, Ethan treated me well. And we did everything a couple should do. Until 2 months ago, when I said yes to Ethan's proposal. His first girlfriend from college, Chloe, suddenly appeared. At first, it wasn't without concern. To put my mind at ease, Ethan checked in with me whenever Chloe called or went to see him at work. He was trying very hard to tell me in practical terms that it was really over with her. But now, after seeing them kiss and seeing him change Cotton's picture, I finally realized that Ethan never forgot her. I knew I couldn't cry. But my tears rolled down uncontrollably. One by one. And I ended up crying so hard that I couldn't breathe and was trembling. Ethan was silent for a long time and suddenly said, "You probably don't realize that I don't feel a thing when you're crying like that right now." The tone was light, calmly stating a fact that he no longer loved me. At that moment, my world came crashing down. I don't know how long it took. But I received a voice from Luna saying that she already knew what had just happened. Even through the screen, I could feel the thick guilt in her voice. After freezing for several seconds, I realized. At that time, Luna and I went hiking, came back and did not get a taxi. Luna let her brother to pick up. Luna is a reorganized family. Her brother has previously been settled abroad, then just returned to China. So I have not seen. Luna had no choice but to call her friend Ethan, who happened to be in the neighborhood for business. That's how Ethan and I met. It's probably because of this reason that Luna blamed herself so much. Immediately after that, Luna sent another. Don't move. We're coming to the hotel to pick you up now. I didn't have the time to think carefully about that. We washed my face, stood up and prepared to leave. Turning around, I realized that Chloe had come out at some point. She stood behind Ethan, looking at me quietly, pity evident in her eyes. There was also a hint of imperceptible mockery and contempt. It was a look I was all too familiar with. Over the past 2 months, countless times she had deliberately created chance encounters. It was with this cryptic yet direct look that she had looked at me. At the time, I couldn't figure out how she was so certain that she was bound and determined to have him when it was clear that Ethan's attitude towards her was so cold as to be almost unapproachable. It wasn't until a month ago that Ethan took me to meet his parents for the first time. His mom blurted out Chloe's name offhandedly at me while she was serving me food. She didn't even notice her slip of the tongue and greeted me warmly. Jia Jia. The fish is very fresh. Eat more. My hands trembled so much that I couldn't hold my chopsticks. At that moment, his mom's kind eyes overlapped with the way Chloe looked at me. Back in the room, Ethan immediately hugged me from behind, with a very sincere attitude. My mom is old. Her memory is not good. Just now it was just a slip of the tongue. You forgive her, okay? I only asked him one sentence. Chloe has put down her posture countless times to find you. Have you ever wavered? He was silent for a long time. Finally, very slowly and firmly whispered in my ear. Honey, I only have you in my heart now. The frankness and helplessness in his tone made me unable to doubt anymore. But that whole night, we did not say another word. He slept in the study on the grounds that he had work to deal with. Thoughts returned to the present. I looked at the two people in front of me woodenly. That kind of betrayed and torn pain, which had grown little by little in what had just happened, was again screaming and spreading unchecked in these details that I had ignored before. Ethan was my first love. The only person I'd wanted to spend my life with in the last 20 years. But I wasn't his. Not in either way. The only person he's wanted since the beginning is Chloe. Passing by Ethan, I pushed down the sadness inside me and tried to look as calm as possible. And tomorrow's wedding is cancelled. We'll both explain to Mom and Dad tonight when we get back. Fortunately, we didn't get married legally. They should understand. I didn't wait for him to reply. I just left. Out of the hotel, only to find that the rain has not stopped. Hazy vapor dense in the mid-air. Foggy. The night is getting thicker. And the coldness cannot stop coming to the body. Looked at the cell phone. I do not know what I was expecting. There is no message. Overhead an umbrella to cover the gloomy sky. Holding the umbrella handle of the fingers white and slender. I froze for a moment, thinking it was Luna who had arrived. Dawn. The other word dawn was swallowed when I met those dark eyes. Alexander? Perhaps because the umbrella handle was tilted toward me. Alexander's hair was a little wet. He was looking down at me and answered faintly. Xiao Xiao is in the car. I was slightly stunned. Although Alexander was Xiao Xiao's brother, we hadn't crossed paths with each other much. A nodding acquaintance at best. I didn't expect him to come with Xiao Xiao to pick me up. Just as I was about to speak, I suddenly felt a cold line of sight coming from behind me. Subconsciously, I turned my head back. Ethan was standing right in front of the hotel, looking at us expressionlessly. He calmly withdrew his line of sight and followed Alexander to the car. Just sat down. I received a call from my mom. Xiao Song has told me. How big a matter said not to get married. Not married. Have to make me angry to death before you are satisfied? The sound of the engine starting suddenly came from the front. Alexander's hands on the steering wheel. The thin face in the dark light inexplicably looks a little cold. My mom's side paused for a moment, as if she was forcibly suppressing her anger. Go back to your father's house and talk about it. The phone was hung up at once. Your mom Xiao Xiao held my cold hand. Eyes complex. Forget it. After a moment of silence, I calmly smiled. Get used to it. Since my parents started their own new families, my mom had another son and my dad had a daughter. I've long gotten used to their indifference and neglect. On the way from Luna, I learned that she had just dined with Alexander at a nearby restaurant and that's why she rushed over together. She then seemed to unintentionally add that it was my brother who took the initiative to come along. It was still early when we got back to my dad's house. My mom was sitting sullenly on the couch, and my dad was sitting across from her smoking a cigarette. But there was no sign of my dad's current and daughter, who were supposed to have shunned them for the time being. Hearing the commotion of me coming back, my mom grunted coldly, grimacing at my dad. Because of a game to repent marriage, or not to say it is your daughter. My dad ignored her, pressed out the cigarette in his hand and asked me, have you decided? I nodded firmly. Well, I will be responsible for all the consequences. I do not agree. My mom's anger finally could not be suppressed. Rubbing a sound stood up, pointing at me and cursing. Friends and family invitations have been sent out. And now you're saying you want tie the knot. If I had known that you make me so humiliated, I should not have given birth to you in the first place. Even though I was prepared for this, my heart still stung hard when I heard these words. Mom, it's not just the game. I also found Ethan's chat records with that guy in his phone. I looked at my mom, and word for word, the night before last, they slept together. My mom froze for a moment. A trace of surprise flashed in her eyes, but quickly said with a firm resolve that, impossible. Xiao Song, this child how good just now also promised to help your brother to solve the job. He will never do boundless things. I looked at her incredulously. My breath stopped. My mom also seemed to realize what she had said. Her lips moved twice to explain, but no words came out. It's okay. My dad suddenly raised his voice. A little impatient. The child has decided on his own. What are you pretending to be a good person for? My mom seems to have a venting object. Sneer. We divorced when she was 5. And the court awarded you custody. But you do not care about anything. Directly throw her to your mom in the countryside. Turn around and remarried. Then her grandmother died and you had no choice but to pick her up from the countryside. And just because the dog her grandmother left behind barked at your daughter a few times, you had to sell it and force her to move out. She pointed to the picture of the family of 3 hanging on the wall, and assumed a broken posture that, dare you say that since that daughter of yours was born, do you still have her as a daughter in your heart? My father seemed to have been poked and prodded, his eyes red with anger. But he didn't deny it. What qualifications do you have to say me? You are still not only treasure that son of yours. They were still exposing each other, not realizing that I had already returned to the guest room. I don't have my own room here. But because I have to get married from the woman's family, my father specially prepared a guest room for me. The only sound in the silent room was my breathing. The cell phone rang abruptly. Chloe. We're going to sing. Oh. Are you coming? Chloe. We're going to sing. Do you want to come? Then there was a picture of them at the karaoke lounge. In the picture, Chloe was holding the microphone. The corners of her lips curved up slightly as she gazed at Ethan, who was sitting on the couch. The light on Ethan's side is a bit dark, so I can't see his exact expression, but I think it's deep and pleasant. The two of them looked at each other from afar, and the old classmates around them seemed to have become a backdrop. The screen played an old classic song. To you I want to love again. No more gaps. No more memories to fill the future. I want to make tomorrow something to look forward to. To love again. I thought I'd cry. But strangely enough, I'm at peace with this moment. Calmly I blacked out Chloe. Calmly I called all the guests one by one to tell them the wedding was cancelled. After the last call, Ethan's call came out of the blue. The background was a bit noisy on the other end of the line. Ethan was silent for a long time. His voice was cold to the extreme. Are you serious? I don't want to say anything more to him. Faintly humph. Directly hang up the phone. I was about to turn off the phone when I received Alexander's WeChat. Ankle wound, remembered to rub medicine. I froze for a long time. Just now when I fell in the hotel, my ankle was scraped by the table. The wound is not very shallow. I hit it all the way. Ethan hadn't noticed. And neither had my parents. I didn't expect it to be noticed by him. This room held a lot of clutter. And I tried rummaging through the drawers and actually found the medical kit. I don't know if it was because of Alexander's comforting words, but I seemed to be taking it extra seriously when I was treating the wound. And I didn't even hear someone knocking on the door. It was Ethan. The cotton swab and ointment snapped to the floor. My mom stood behind Ethan, skimming her head to avoid my disbelieving eyes. Mom still can't believe that song would do something wrong to you. It's just as well that he's coming over, so you guys can talk about it. Soon the door was closed and Ethan and I were the only ones left in the room. His eyes fell on my ankle. His tone was a bit unnatural. Was it from the fall just now? The palm of his hand pressed against the back of my cold hand. His voice was very soft. I'm sorry. I didn't notice it just now. The hot and wet touch made me instantly stiff. Almost as a reflex. Forcefully draw back my hand. Go out. Maybe my attitude was too cold. Ethan had a moment of disorientation, but quickly calmed down. Sophia. Marriage is not a child's play. You won't even give me a chance to explain? Explain? I looked at him and suddenly felt like laughing. What are you going to explain to me, Ethan? Explain why you didn't push Chloe away when she kissed you? Or explain why you didn't answer my calls the night before last and left me for her? Sophia. Me and her. You chose to be silent when I wanted to hear your explanation the most. I interrupted him. Belated apologies and explanations mean nothing at all. Ethan was visibly stunned for a moment. Sophia. Believe it or not, she and I are not who you think we are. I looked at him, speechless. Recently a project at my company went terribly wrong, and the night before last I was in a meeting for almost the whole night. I forgot my cell phone in the office and turned it off during a power outage. So I didn't mean to not answer your call. I didn't even look for her. As for just now in the hotel, was borrowed by a classmate one's cell phone. Wallpaper may also be that time was replaced. Then later, we took the wrong phone. I do not know what she sent you. He paused for a moment. And when I saw it, it only showed that she had withdrawn a message. I froze. Chloe did have a similar maneuver. I've been in a bad state the last few days because of the project and the wedding chores. And I've been treating you badly. And I've done wrong. He tugged on his tie. And a faint remorse showed under his eyes. When those people messed up, my mind was even more messed up. And somehow, I forgot to push her away. But his words of explanation only sounded powerless to me. Cece, it's really not possible for me to be with her, Ethan said tentatively, placing his hand on the back of mine again. After about 2 seconds of silence, I pulled my hand out. Ethan, it's not like you're betraying our relationship because you didn't actually have sex with her. And I'll pretend nothing happened. Indifference and silence are equally a knife. The damage they've done to me is something you can gloss over. But I can't. You probably don't realize. After clenching my palms and trying to adjust my breathing, I struggled to say that. How gentle you looked when you faced her. Ethan froze. Had probably forgotten. Whether impulsively and unintentionally or sincerely. That had said himself that he felt absolutely nothing now that I was crying. He seemed like he was going to say something else. But I coldly interrupted. Since you're not going to leave, then I'll just leave. After saying that, I opened the door straight and walked out. Behind me came Ethan's somewhat hoarse voice. Don't go. I didn't expect to see Alexander downstairs in the living room. He was sitting on the couch, absently playing with his cell phone, with an ointment on the table in front of him. Noticing that I'd come out, Alexander said, a little breathlessly. Xiao Xiao was so anxious when she realized you were injured that she asked me to bring you the ointment. I froze, couldn't help but smile, and wanted to explain that I had already rubbed the medicine. But suddenly I felt a gaze from the side, seemingly smiling. Turns out, Chloe was there. How did she find my house? Chloe walked slowly to my side, a smile that could not be seen on her face. Yo, looks like you're in a good mood. Made up with Ethan? I smiled back and answered her with a raised eyebrow. Meaning it. What do you think we're going to do when we're in the room for that long? Chloe froze for a moment, probably brainstorming something, and glared hard at me. I was thinking of being provoked by her so many times and provoking her back once. But as I watched her face become more and more ugly, I suddenly felt bored again. Ethan also walked out. Why haven't you guys left yet? The words. Obviously talking about Chloe and Alexander. Alexander didn't say anything. Chloe obviously couldn't take it. Called me over to clarify things to her parents face to face. And now that you've made up, you're turning the other cheek? Ethan didn't answer. As if he was acquiescing. Seeing the way he treats Chloe. I don't know what his point is. Chloe finally couldn't hold it together. Ethan, you shouldn't have done this to me. Her whole body froze. Faded pride. Only pale and despair left in her tone. Ethan, you really do not want me? Ethan did not say anything. Gently put his hand on the side of my waist. Half embracing me. Chloe suddenly smiled. And then calmly took out a piece of paper from her bag and sent it to me. It was a pregnancy test. Chloe's name was clearly written on it. And she was already 1 month pregnant. The night before last. We really didn't do anything. Chloe stared straight at me. The smile is getting deeper and deeper. But a month ago, you have a Cold War one day. He went to drink. My brain exploded with a buzz and I turned my head stiffly. Ethan was staring intently at the piece of paper, his face instantly turning pale. At this moment, it was as if there was water-soaked cotton clogging his throat, which then dissolved into a steel bar that slowly stabbed in, making it difficult to even breathe. His reaction already said it all. Psyche. Ethan's eyes. vaguely red. Looking at his face that wanted to explain so much, but had no way to argue. I clearly perceived something in my heart dissipating little by little. In the end, only nausea remains. Ethan, no one has to make you must forget her. You can be in your emotional world from one. But why do you come to provoke me? I drank a lot that night. He was still trying to explain. Interrupted by my cold voice. Don't say anything about it being just an accident. Treating her as my bullshit. Not even having the courage to admit it can only make me look down on you. Ethan's face turned white and froze in place. After Grandma left, Ethan was the best person to me. Or perhaps, it was my cherishing and valuing that infinitely magnified this goodness. But because I lacked love, did I deserve to be hurt by him? Did I not deserve a clean, wholehearted love? I don't know how long it took Ethan to whisper, "I'm sorry," to me. The light in the room was dim. He turned around and took a step towards the door. When Ethan's figure completely disappeared, Chloe looked at me, smiling smugly, her delicate face full of arrogance. Do you understand now? You can never win against me. I looked at her speechlessly, suddenly a little skeptical. Is she really Ethan's college classmate? In other words, did she really go to college in this brain? Without waiting for me to open my mouth to ask, a low voice came from behind me and, if you are pregnant for a month, for the sake of the child's future, I suggest you go to the hospital for a CT and MRI checkup at an early date. Chloe frowned. What does it mean? Alexander Eyebrow's words were not urgent. When there is a dysfunction in the brain, the only way to determine if there is a genetic risk is to do a test and clarify the nature of the lesion. I froze for a moment and couldn't help but giggle. Chloe also reacted. Shit. You're calling me brain damaged? Alexander didn't deny it. It's impossible to recover. But you have to be aggressive. Chloe is pissed off and walks away. When she left, she was cursing and swearing. Like someone else's family's show Hook and my family's Cotton who couldn't win a fight. I laughed so hard it hurt half the time. I turned around and realized that Alexander had been watching me. Seeing me look over, Alexander acted frankly. Have a good rest. I've completed the task that Xiao Xiao gave me and it's time for me to go back. I walked to the balcony and watched his car pull out of view, exhaling slowly. When I got back to my room I got a call from Xiao Xiao. Chloe's pregnant? I froze for a moment and told her what had just happened. I couldn't help but end with a compliment about Alexander's dislike skills. Xiao Xiao, however, heard something wrong. Eh? My brother went to your house? Didn't he say he had something to go back to the company? After that day, I moved to Xiaoxiao's place for a while, intending to find a house before moving out. The things I left at Ethan's place, they'll just go get them back after a while. Alexander was out of the country on a business trip and wouldn't be back for at least a month. Because of this, I didn't reject Xiaoxiao's kind offer. These days, my parents called me several times, but I didn't answer. Ethan didn't bother me either. From what Xiao Xiao said, Chloe had stayed at Ethan's mom's house, taking good care of him. But no matter how much his mom tried to persuade him, Ethan hadn't gone back once. But all this has nothing to do with me anymore. On this day, to celebrate my finding a house, Xiao Xiao and I decided to try ice skating once. When we arrived at ice rink, probably because it was still very early in the morning, there weren't many people here, so it was very suitable for learning to skate. Xiao Xiao looked bold on the surface, but as soon as she entered the rink, she grabbed the railing and didn't let go. Her lips were trembling. No. I'm still afraid of falling. You go first. When I'm mentally prepared, they'll definitely come to you. I have no choice but to fumble with the railing myself and move forward one step at a time. In fact, my balance is not very good, so I don't really know how to skate. And the last time I came here was the last time. About half an hour later, I let go of the railing and slowly stood up, when a person suddenly skated past me very fast. Caught off guard, I stumbled and was about to fall. "Be careful." A low, familiar voice came from my ear, and a hand rested on my waist, holding me steady. I froze for a moment as I met those dark eyes. I didn't expect it to be Alexander. He should have just gotten off the plane, wearing a black trench coat that outlined his entire body in a straight and upright manner. As soon as I got off the plane, I got a message from Xiao Xiao saying that you guys had gone ice skating and asked me to come and pick you up. Alexander explained the reason for his sudden appearance. "You still can't skate now?" I gave a casual and immediately realized what. "Now?" Alexander didn't say any more and let go of my waist, seeing me immediately hugging the railing again as if I was insecure. Alexander was silent for a few seconds and then let out a low laugh. After he had laughed enough, he slowly and methodically took off his jacket and put it on the railing, tapping it with his fingertips. "I'll teach you?" The voice line is not like the usual cold, very relaxed flavor. I was smiling at his cheeks hot. Came a kind of inexplicable desire to win. Did not refuse. Greatly said. "Then please." If it wasn't for this skate, I wouldn't have realized that Alexander had such good patience. He slowed down his movements and patiently explained to me how to skate and what to skate with. Except for the time when he accidentally fell on him and his body stiffened for a moment. The rest of the time he performed with ease. After skating for quite a while, I realized that I was rarely falling anymore. Excitedly, I inclined my head as if I'd. Alexander looked at me steadily, his voice containing a smile. "Well, you're out of the class." Those eyes were bright, deep, like a pool of soft, quiet, clear water, usually always looking at people lightly. But at this moment there was a dash of something else. I couldn't help but be slightly stunned. Coming out of ice rink, Xiao Xiao was temporarily called to the company to modify the program. So now there were only Alexander and I in the car. I expected him to say something to me. However, he said nothing and focused on driving. Just as I was beginning to wonder if I was overthinking things, Alexander pulled over. Actually, I kind of regret it. I was slightly stunned. At that time, Xiao Xiao called me a lot, saying that you guys didn't get a cab and asked me to pick you up. But I didn't get the call because I was busy with the project. Then Dawn called Ethan. Alexander inclined his head and looked at me. "I actually met you for the first time in this ice rink today. I did come here once 3 years ago. My dad brought my 6-year-old sister to skate and brought me along. At that time, you seemed to come with your family. Your dad was teaching your sister how to skate, and you were quietly holding the railing and watching from the side. Later, you tried to let go of the rail and skate on your own, but you couldn't get the hang of it. So you had to ask your dad for help, who seemed to be busy at the time and had his back turned to you on the phone." I clenched my palms, the long-ago memory in my mind clearing up under his narration. "Then your sister was suddenly hit, and you subconsciously slid over and made a human cushion for her." Alexander paused, his voice suddenly a little deep. "As a result, your father thought that you caused your sister to fall, scolded you, hugged your sister and left, leaving you alone." Alexander glanced at me and sighed softly. "I thought you would cry in aggravation. But you were calm, as if you were used to it. That afternoon, you practiced skating alone and silently, falling a lot, You didn't say a word. Until once you fell so hard that physiological tears overflowed from the corners of your eyes. You just touched your face dully and then smiled gently. At that time I realized. You are not aggrieved. Do not want to cry. You just cannot cry. You are trying to find ways to let yourself cry. You are in the self-help. Alexander looked at me fixedly and whispered. That was the first time my heart ached for a strange girl. I froze. And it took me a while to say. When I got back, my dad apologized to me, saying that when he was returning his skates, a man told him that my sister hadn't been pushed by me. Then to make up for it, he gave me a pair of very expensive skates. But I never went skating again. Suddenly realizing something. Before I could ask, Alexander replied. That man was me. I was the one who told your dad. My heart jumped. Alexander looked at me. After that, miss. When we met again, you were already with Ethan. When I got out of the car, I hadn't slowed down and I ended up almost tripping over a rock again. Alexander had naturally, you could say habitually, held my waist. His tone was warm. Look at the road. I didn't look at the road. I looked at him, opening my mouth to say something. A familiar voice came from behind me. Psyche. Ethan stood under the tree. His face looked a little blurred in the cool moonlight, making it impossible to see the expression on his face. When he came closer, I realized that he had lost a lot of weight in the past month. And his eyebrows and eyes were slightly tired. As soon as I spoke, my tone was sarcastic. Why don't you take care of your family member and come here? Ethan didn't seem to hear my words. His eyes hovered over Alexander and I. His voice obscure to the extreme. And he was so close to him. How far did you guys go? The slightly questioning tone made me think for a moment that I had misheard him. Ethan. I need to tell you that we don't have any relationship anymore. Ethan froze. His expression a little unnatural. I'm sorry. Not wanting to say any more to him, I turned around and headed inside. Chloe is not pregnant. Ethan's words managed to stop me in my tracks. I inclined my head to look at him. What did you say? Ethan looked at me and the knot in his throat rolled. The pregnancy test wasn't hers. She had a friend close to her age, also named Chloe, who had gotten pregnant some time ago, and Chloe stole her pregnancy test. I was stunned for a moment. Subconsciously, I looked at Alexander, who also happened to be looking at me. We read a phrase in each other's eyes. Chloe might actually be sick in the head. Chloe and I had a huge fight yesterday. And she said everything, including the night I got drunk. And when I woke up the next day I couldn't remember anything. But I didn't actually end up doing anything with her. When Ethan finishes, Alexander lets out a laugh in a tone of voice that's not even remotely familiar. You didn't do anything until the end? A butcher kills a pig, pulls out the hair, cleans it, and then doesn't do anything to it until he eats the meat? Speaking later, Ethan's face becomes more and more ugly, and Alexander blandly explains that it's just a metaphor. After a long silence, Ethan turned his attention to me. Sissy. He called out my name. Is it true that no matter what I say or do again, you will never forgive me? I didn't hesitate. Yes. Ethan suddenly freezes and mumbles. But Chloe's not pregnant. She left. We solved our problems. You were so close to forgiving me. I was silent for a while and suddenly interrupted him. Do you remember that broken wristwatch you have in your drawer? Ethan froze and nodded hesitantly. That wristwatch you've never been able to throw away. You told me it was a gift from a relative. But it was actually a gift from Chloe, right? I asked him softly. Do you know how I found out? Ethan's lips twitched, but no words came out. On the day of your reunion, Chloe sent me a picture of you two from the old days. And it was a couple's watch. Right? The expression on Ethan's face froze. I laughed lightly. It was never her who hurt me. It was you who gave her the chance to hurt me over and over again. Ethan's already reddened eyes reddened completely, looking at his pale face. I whispered, I never want to see you again. Epilogue. After that day, Ethan never appeared in front of me again. After we moved, Xiao Xiao often came to my house, saying she was used to sleeping with me. Every night Alexander would make video calls to her, and after a few words, he would naturally throw the conversation to me next to him. Over time, I had the illusion that I was the one talking to Alexander every night. On weekends, the three of us would often go hiking, but Xiao Xiao was always too tired to go. So Alexander and I were the only ones who left every time. Of course I knew that Xiao Xiao was trying to create an opportunity for us. And I knew I didn't reject Alexander. But I wasn't ready to accept him. Until Xiao Xiao couldn't stand it anymore and brought me Alexander's diary. She said it was a diary. But she didn't record anything. She said it wasn't a diary. But she wrote in it every day. She rushed over to me, a blush even on her face. And I won the project and lost my wife. 8 short words, soaked through the paper and sobbed with blood. I was stunned. I didn't come back to my senses until Alexander came in, slightly disoriented, and took the book out of my hand. He coughed softly over his lip, pretending to be calm, but his ears were red and dripping blood. Just writing for fun. My heart was in turmoil. But when I saw him in this state, I couldn't help but laugh out loud. As if peeling away the clouds, all the tangled obsessions then dissipated. I am extremely insecure inside, hoping to have a clean, wholehearted love. Wasn't this person right in front of me? With that in mind, I took a deep breath and asked Alexander to give me the diary. Alexander was a little confused, but did as he was told. I leaned down slightly and opened the diary, then took a pen out of the quill and carefully scratched out the first 6 words. Standing up, I lock eyes with Alexander and point to the remaining 2 words and read them. Alexander froze and smiled. Honey. I blushed slightly and answered softly.